Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Notes and Nerves podcast. My name's Anya. I'm your host. And today I am joined by an extremely remarkable woman who has truly done it all in the creative space across countries, across genres, across different art forms. So she started her career as a professional figure skater in Riva, Latvia, and then she moved to Toronto around 20 years ago to pursue songwriting and acting. And since then, she has produced and recorded and written an album under the artist name LIVVA. And she has participated in multiple projects in film, so starring in films and also pursuing acting. So please allow me to welcome LIVVA to the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm very, very excited about our conversation today. So I guess I want to start with your story because it's very unique and it's a long story. So I guess I'd want to start with kind of your early figure skating days and specifically looking back, how do you think that kind of shaped you as a person and as an artist as well?
Sounds good. I try to be as short as possible because my story is kind of long. Yeah, sometimes it feels like I have like three lives. That I had three lives. And I was 7 years old, and I remember the moment when I started skating. It was kind of late because I was 7 years old. All the skaters starts about 3, 4. Everybody at the skating ring back in Latvia skated really well, and then it was me. I was 7 years old. I was really tall for my age, and I remember none of the coaches wanted to take me on because they were like, "Okay, you're so late, and you're really tall, and yada yada." And this is kind of the journey started. This was the first time that I realized, oh, maybe if I work hard, I can actually succeed and be above the people I need to be above. And that's when my journey started. And at age 13, I became a national champion.
Wow.
And at the age 15, I already went to the world championship. And my dream was to compete at Olympics. And unfortunately, my career ended at 17. I had a back injury. And my back injury started when I was 15, and we kind of dragged it on until it was kind of the path to do the surgery and 1 year recovery or just stop. And by that time, I was in so much pain that I kind of felt that this is the end. And when I was 17, almost 18, I stopped skating. But I was all my life, I was drawn to acting. I was in a drama school, and I was constantly making melodies in my head. I was writing poetry. I had so many um, notebooks with poetry. And I remember telling my mom that, you know what, like I kind of always wanted to go into arts, and maybe this is the chance for me. And I remember going to university to do sport education and feeling that I was completely in the wrong place. This is not really what I wanted to pursue, but I got my bachelor degree anyways. So yeah, and then unexpectedly at 20 years old, I got a chance to move to Canada, and that was me at 17 wanting to move to Canada. I was at the skating camp in Canada. We applied for documents when I was 17, and I kind of forgot about it. And at 20, I was back in Latvia. I got invited, got a PR to go to Canada. And I remember kind of having a conversation that I'm not skating anymore. I don't want to coach. This is not the path that I want, but I already got my documents, and I thought, okay, this is a chance for kind of a new path, which at that time was so naive because it took me almost 20 years when I moved to Canada to actually start building the dream and feeling like I'm on the right path finally. Because coming to Canada, I didn't know anybody, no money, no English, and it felt like, oh my God, like, where am I? And I felt like all the doors were closing at the same time because I was told, oh, you're late, you're 20, you just moved, you have an accent, your English is not good. Um, I always kind of felt that I'm late. You know what I mean? And then it's kind of became a different path, a different career. But the skating, the discipline that I acquired during skating really helped me to go after the new path. I knew what hard work is, and I knew what showing up means. So basically, that's the story.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible. And, power to you because you said it took a long time, but you're here, you're building it, and that's awesome. I think that's such a common feeling that like when I talk to people, everyone feels like they're behind. It's very interesting. It's the feeling of, oh, I'm too late at this, I'm behind. And it's interesting how so many people feel that way. But I think, hearing your story and knowing that it's never too late to take a leap and just try something different. And I also think, yeah, the discipline aspect is very important. And all the different parts of our lives kind of help each other and come together to make like the image of who we are. So that's really interesting. So, from more of a mental health standpoint, because that's also kind of one of the main topics of the podcast, how has your relationship with mental health evolved throughout your life and throughout kind of the career changes you've made, the life changes you've made? And if you could just speak a bit about that.
Sounds good. Um, I remember during my competitive career, um, I had very big nerves when going on the ice. Like at the practice, I would be really, really good. Everything is smooth. And then I would step on the ice to compete and I would become a completely different person. And at that time, I didn't know a lot about mental health, and we didn't have much resources to go and actually speak to a professional and figure out why is that? Why am I every time I have this pressure that I need to do good? Why am I feeling not enough? Why am I feeling that this is kind of like life and death situation, even though I practice the routine many, many times? And I would compete, and at times I would be really, really bad, like a completely different person, and I would beat myself up, and then would go in another competition and feel even more pressure to be good. And only when I came to Canada, I started feeling that people are talking openly about mental health, being stuck and discovering things about yourself, and also not being ashamed to go to therapy, and my time started with therapy also when I came to Canada and discovering things about myself and unpacking a different layer when you struggle with identity, who you are, and constantly judging yourself, and as you mentioned, always feeling like you're behind, always looking at other people and being like, oh, she's 25 and she successful and rich, or she's 30, she has family and career, and constantly beating yourself up. And only now at 37, I think I kind of grasped the moment of returning to self and being like, I'm the only competition to myself. It's just me, myself, and I. And I need to go at my own pace and stop judging and start enjoying. This is the first year I would say that I actually enjoy auditioning. I enjoy making records. I enjoy getting in a room filled with only 70 people and having this enormous connection with them instead of getting on stage and being like, why it's not 7,000 people? You know what I mean?
Yes, yes. It's so universal. Like all of these things, all of these emotions, comparison, whatever it is, even if it's not in the same realm. I mean, I was a artistic swimmer for a while as well, and when you
Mhm.
were describing like the skating and the performance anxiety, like I had a lot of experience with that too. So it's so interesting how we're all connected by these very common emotions. And I guess in terms of your music, now when I listen to your music, it has a very dark, cinematic, kind of orchestral sound. And I guess I was wondering, how did that sound come to be? How did you kind of carve out that niche for yourself? And how did you decide that was the kind of music you wanted to make?
I actually was writing for other artists in a pop genre, and I was a pop artist for a very long time. Just recently, about a year ago, half a year ago, even I switched to electronic music, and I always were drawn to write very poetic lyrics. And recently, even discovering about myself, that it's okay not to be okay. And also finding out in my relationship with my partner that both of us are artists, have the dark side of us, and that dark side actually writes that poetry, wants to connect to people, and being okay to love that darkness about yourself and about other people and about your partner instead of constantly judging yourself and seeing how the world translates that you always kind of need to be perfect, on Instagram, in your life, with your career, and also the news that we share. We always share what we achieved, right? We never actually share our downfalls. And I realized also connecting with people through the vulnerability, through the dark side, through like looking each other in the eyes. And I never forget that moment when I used to perform in a pop world, and I had a song that did really well. It called "I Don't Want to Be You Anymore." And it basically was a song about me not wanting to be that version that constantly suffers, that constantly compares, that constantly judges herself. And I remember I had a very small event, and this one girl came to me, and her tears just, she was crying, and she said, "You know what? I feel exactly the same. I don't want to be myself. I want to be somewhere else. Why is it?" And we had the most beautiful conversation. It was like maybe 7, 10 minutes, but I realized, oh, this connection of the completely random person that you don't know, you can share this very deep and profound moment of someone you barely know through the art, through just going out there and saying, "You know what, I don't want to be me in these days, that I don't want to be me." And I never felt that connection through sharing my success or polished pictures. It's all through that one human to another. And I took those lyrics, I took writing about loving the darkness, loving the nighttime, loving the rain, and pouring it now on a dance records, and having people to respond sometimes on the dance floor coming and be like, "You know what, it wasn't just a track for me, I felt something." And sometimes they can't even describe what they felt. And I'm like, oh, that's what I want to make music for that connection. And if it's only 70 people or 700 or 7,000, world will decide. But as soon as I have that connection with a stranger, that's art for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's so beautiful. And I think it's such an interesting combination because it's you have this high beat, this fast-paced electronic music that's playing where people are dancing, but there's a very emotional side to it. And I think that it just your work perfectly captures what it means to be human. It's being happy, being ecstatic, kind of movement, but also always again having that side of you that maybe you don't show everyone, but it's that side that like you're saying that really connects with other people. So that's super interesting. And in terms of kind of connection, I want to talk a bit more about your short film Unmasking. It was released in 2019 and it was a film designed to kind of promote mental health awareness. So I guess yeah, I want to hear the story behind that because it definitely was super intriguing to me when I came across it.
Thank you. It was actually a first short movie that I co-produced and co-written and was part of. My very good friend, the director and the writer, Rob Como, he actually came up with the idea. We were just sitting and chatting, and he said, we also were chatting about mental health and how we always wear masks, right? And then when we come home, this is our space where we take off the mask, and sometimes we cry, sometimes we go through difficult emotions, and how hard it is to connect, even with a partner. At that time, we were both single, to connect with a partner because we're always going on a date with that facade, and we don't know
Oh,
that another
interesting.
person. And and he said, "You know what? Let's write a movie about it." And we wrote a short movie, and then we went to an artist who creates those masks. And then she actually put I don't remember the material she put on me. I
Oh
had
my
to sit with
gosh.
closed eyes for an hour. It was so claustrophobic, but also healing at the same time because the purpose of this movie to show people how we all wear masks.
Yeah.
And she made a mold of my face. She made a mask, and my another good friend jumped on board to play a partner, and we started at my place. It was very low budget, and then did really well at the festivals. We did not expect that, but it traveled a lot around different continents, and I think it did really well because it was kind of very relatable. How all of us has those masks, and then you can only have that true connection once you take it off. But it's really scary because most of the time you get judged for opening up, so when is that time? And the end of the movie was so beautiful. Our another writer friend, Steven Sloot, he helped us with ending, when I took off my mask when I came to my partner, and the ending was that he revealed and took his off, and all throughout the whole movie we didn't even know that he has a mask on as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's crazy how when you put things kind of visually or poetically, it's like it's emotions, but when you provide that metaphor, it hits so much deeper. And about the mask thing, I remember I'm a big Billie Eilish fan. So I
Yeah.
remember watching one of her like the behind the scenes of one of her YouTube videos and like
Yeah.
seeing like that plaster on like where she had to sit there for and I'm like that is insane. How did you breathe?
Oh, it was really, really hard. I had like a little bit, like little gap to breathe,
Mm,
and I was really scared to just sit there with my eyes closed, barely breathing, and just all I had to do, it was kind of forced meditation. I would calm myself down for the whole
yes.
hour that I'm safe. Um, but I remember it was the scariest moment of preparing for this movie is to sit with that. I don't remember the material on, waiting for it to dry,
Yeah.
and not being able to see or properly breathe or hear because it was all over my head. Um, but it was kind of therapeutical in a way, it helped me to tune in more into that struggling female character that was the lead of the movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess in terms of advice that you have for either young artists who are kind of a bit nervous about kind of putting their stuff out there, or just young people in general who are struggling with their mental health and with this idea of masking and comparison, what advice would you kind of give to them?
Um, I'd say when you make art, release it. There's so many people I constantly talk to or people who ask for advice, and I used to be there. They constantly perfect. They whether perfect, oh, it's not good enough, or they judge themselves. And there's a really good quote. I think it goes like that, like this: make art, release it, make the world decide if it's good or not. Sometimes I remember my biggest song at that time that I thought would be the biggest songs, and I sat on them for hours and hours, didn't do anything. And then I had songs that I wrote, like the song "I Don't Want to Be You Anymore." I wrote in like 2 hours. We released it, and it hit 500,000 streams on all the platforms without even putting $1 into promotion. And people just start texting me feeling connected, and I was like, wow, I didn't even think it's going to be that successful. And for me that was a success, as an independent artist, to get so many streams. And I realized, like, wow, there's so many songs that I sat on, or scripts that I would just sit on and think it's not good enough.
Yeah.
But I think you got to tune in and think, is it me who judging me and think it's not good enough, or is it the fear? If that's the fear, just talk to it, release it, go make more art. Because I'm a huge believer, once you cannot let go one idea, another idea won't come to you. Yeah, I'm a huge believer that once I see this planted in your head, an idea. Let's let's say you think it's God of creation, right? Or universe. you have the seed, it means you need to execute it because it wouldn't come into your mind. And if you cannot execute it and give it to people, a new idea will never come. You gotta fill
Yeah.
the space. So once you brew, and I hear from people, oh my God, I had this idea for a song for 5 6 years. You know what, if you're not gonna execute it and give it to people, the idea gonna leave you and plant the seed in a different head. Somebody else gonna do it. That's why we sometimes think, oh my God, I thought of this, but somebody already did it. But if you thought of it before, you were meant to do it, but you didn't. You
Wow.
know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely guilty of like the sitting on ideas thing. Yeah. No, that's a
Yeah,
great
just do
perspective.
it. Yeah, and I think also it's the same happens with hits. I was lucky enough to work with a very big producers and songwriters on songs that went to different artists, and it's amazing how, like, yes, you have an idea, you finish it, you have to release it because ideas are not meant to be stored in your head. You know, they're gonna drain your energy, they're gonna make you more insecure, they're gonna plant fears. If the idea came to you, execute it, leave it. And the more, and sometimes they say, like, you have to, for example, release 19 of those ideas because the 20th is standing in a line waiting for you to get rid of those 19. So there's somewhere a hit, for example, sitting, but you can't give it to people because 19th of the bad ideas has to leave your head,
Wow.
and that's what you
Yeah.
feel. So I'm a huge believer of that. I don't remember who told me that. I think I read it in a book, or somebody told me that, but I'm a huge believer. So every time I do finish the song, I'm like, I'll let people decide. I'll let people decide because the next idea will never come to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I like this perspective of detaching morality from art. It's like it doesn't necessarily need to be good or bad, it just needs to be yours. And the idea thing, yeah, it's like that's the most important thing. And that analogy with the hits is really it's something because it's like, yeah, you have it's standing in the way. Like you sitting on ideas is blocking the other. That's like I've never actually heard that perspective before. So thank you for that. And then I guess if someone's listening today, kind of on the other end, and they feel kind of alone in their feelings and they're struggling with whether it might be mental health or self-esteem, what would you kind of tell them on the other end?
This is purely my idea. I might be wrong, so don't take it as a
Okay.
as an example. But I find it that depression is not unresolved emotions, but the the potential that was not um, built. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like when I talk to friends and they say, "Oh, I feel down, I feel depressed," I feel, is there anything in your life that you really, really want to do and you're not doing? Is there something that you
Huh.
really wanted to say but you're not saying? Is it, for example, that people say, "Oh, I hate my job, that's why I'm depressed." You're not hating your job, and that's why you're depressed. You're blaming yourself for not being brave enough and go to do what you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always feel like look deep inside, sit with your uncomfortable feeling. Don't run, don't drink alcohol, don't party, don't go on dates. Sit with that uncomfortable feeling and be like, what do I really want to do and I'm not doing? Where am I betraying myself? Where am I actually, like, putting alcohol and food on top just to shut that voice inside of me? And usually, when you sit with yourself for a very long time, the answer will always come out. And then when you
Yes.
go and do that, you start feeling those hard feelings, they stepping aside. Just by doing it. You don't have to succeed
Yeah.
in just doing it.
Yeah. Wow, that is excellent advice. And I think that's something that it's we struggle with, especially nowadays, because there's so many ways for us to distract ourselves from emotions, and it's so easy to do that. So it's really nice to kind of have that reminder of no, this is actually the only thing that is going to resolve is you need to the answers are not out there, they're inside. So that's That's great advice. So, in terms of how I like to usually wrap up the show, I like to do something called a nerve check. So, it's just a few rapid fire questions so that our audience can get to know you a little bit more. So,
Sure.
first question. One thing you do when you're overwhelmed.
I sit down and breathe.
Yeah.
I sit down and breathe, and I remember I can breathe. I know it's really
No,
cliche,
no,
but
no,
that's
no. That's great.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next question. A book that changed how you see the world.
A book that changed Placebo Effect by Joe Dispenza.
Oh, I've never heard of that one. Maybe I'll pick it up.
Mm.
Uh, what recharges you faster, solitude or connection?
Connection.
Connection. So
Yeah.
you're an extrovert then.
I'm intro extrovert. I really like to spend time alone and write and be on my own, but it's very important for me to connect with close ones. Very
Yes.
important.
Nice. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee, yeah, same. One emotion you think people are afraid to talk about?
Sadness.
Sadness. Yeah. Because I think there's so many other emotions that hide sadness, like anger hides sadness,
Yeah.
jealousy hides sad. Yeah, that's very
Or even
interesting.
grief. People think grief is when you lose someone close and they're ashamed to come to somebody and say, I'm grieving an old version of myself, or I'm grieving me not acting what I should. I think we're allowed to grieve on small things too and not compare ourselves. You know how we always have
Yeah.
guilt, like, oh no, I didn't lose anybody. How can I grieve? You can grieve, and it's also such a beautiful emotion to let yourself and allow yourself to be sad, to cry, to grieve. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way of looking at it because I think everyone, again, it's the same like morality thing. Everyone classifies emotions as either being good or bad, but they all need to have a place, and that's how we're built. We're built to feel everything. So
So
that's an amazing insight. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to leave Notes and Nerves listeners with?
Um, Actually, I wanted to say that this podcast falls into release of my new song, Slow Mo. Yeah, so I released a new song. So if you want to check it out, leave a slow mo on any streaming platforms. My previous song, Perfect Sin, that I released 7 weeks ago, did fantastic on streaming platforms. And if you're actually going to sit down and listen to the lyrics, I think you will be able to connect that wounded part and feel okay. So it's kind of was meant as a sad healing song.
Yeah, yeah. So that's Slow Mo and Perfect
Perfect Sin.
Sin by LIVVA.
Yeah.
So check that out, and I will see you guys next week for another episode. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.